So in this tutorial we're going to finish up the payroll, snooping around, and then we're going to talk about accounts payable to see what we can find in there that may be helpful to us in our investigation. So the last thing in the payroll that we may want to look at is whether or not different employees have the same direct deposit account. So for a married couple that might not be a problem, but for unrelated employees, if they're using the same direct deposit, that's another way to find ghost employees. So a ghost employee could be a fake employee and not just a terminated one. In our original search for ghost employees, we were looking to see if employees that used to work there, for which they would have had all the fields of data, and so it wouldn't have been unusual, look like an unusual record. But it's possible to add a fake employee and just fake all their data and put the direct deposit as your own if you're the fraudster. So we can check for that. We can go back to our join database. So the way to do that is to go up to duplicate key, and we're going to exclude the things we're not interested in and only look at the things we are interested in. So we want to look at direct deposit accounts that are, we want to look at employees that are different but have the same direct deposit account. So, we want direct deposit accounts that have different employee numbers. Got to get that right. So for a particular deposit account, if there are different employees, we'd like to see those. So let's go ahead and say OK. And there are 4 employees that have the same direct deposit account, so that's a problem. Let's go over and see who they are. Okay, so the husband and wife, them having the same direct deposit account is not a problem. These other 2 employees, their paychecks are also going into the SPIES account. Now we already identified these as being terminated employees. But we did check to see if there were, in addition to terminated employees, other employees that were getting paid, but their paycheck amounts were going into the SPIES account or into somebody else's account. So that there wasn't any new information on that test, but we went ahead and ran it. So let's move on to the accounts payable. Let's pull in the accounts payable file, go on back to home and to the desktop to import from Excel, change the breadcrumbs to wherever it is you have your project file. Next. And then now we're going to click on AP data and unclick payroll data, or whichever other tabs you had clicked on, and be sure to click first row is the field name and hit OK. And if it came in correctly, you'll have that 942 records, which is the number of payments. This is, I think, all the payments in the first half of 2013. So we start with January 2013 and go through the end of June 2000. So we have 6 months of vendor payment data from 2013 that we can use to test. So it's hard scrolling through these. First of all, there's just too many payments to scroll through 900 and sort of figure out from staring at these payments. But it is possible to do just a little bit of scanning for immediate problems. So let's do a pivot table. We already know how to do a pivot table. And we won't give it any particular name because we're just kind of scanning. And what I want to see here is payees and then amount, maybe by pay date. Sounds good. Let's have the check amount. Okay. And what I want to do is just immediately see if there's any checks out to cash, because that's the easiest way to get away with something. So I'm going to uncheck everything except, let's scroll down, are there any to cash? Ooh, okay, wait. I just want to see the checks made out to cash. So I click outside, and oh my goodness, look at this. We do have 4 payments to cash. So those immediately would be payments we would want to understand. So we would save this, export this. Change the breadcrumbs to wherever it is you're putting. Alright, let's adjust our, by just clicking on this plus, I can make changes to my pivot table. So, actually let's close this pivot table over here. I'm going to just right click and delete my result, and it'll just take me back to my data files. I want to add 2 fields, and then I'm going to do another interesting double click anywhere within here, and let's append, and let's add month or pay date month, and then let's put at month for pay date. It knows what the at month command is, which is tell me what month that payday falls into. So I'm going to hit OK with my formula, and now I want pay date year, and I'm going to do a similar command at year for pay date, and then make sure it understands my script, and it did, and then I hit OK. So I have, yes, I have 2 new variables now, and the reason for that is I'm going to do a pivot table, and I'm going to ask it to put the dollar amount in the middle, and I want to see, where's my new thing, I want to see the pay date year up at the top, and then the pay date month. Maybe I want it in a different order. Well, let me change my mind. Yeah, good. Okay. And then I'd like the payee name over here. Thank you very much. And I like the memo. Why do I want the memo? Because in the memo it's going to tell me, I want the payee on the other side. Thank you. In the memo, it's going to tell me usually the invoice date or the purchase order, the invoice number or the purchase order number. It's the instructions to the vendor about how to apply the amount. And look here under AT&T, 2 different account numbers. This is a sign of something called mirroring. Your case talks about that, where the business account is being paid, but an employee is tucking in their personal payment in addition under the same vendor. And so if you're not scanning for this, it looks like the A&T bill of $3,100 was reasonable for the business, and you don't notice that every month there's 2 AT&T bills on 2 different accounts. Why would the business have 2 different accounts for AT&T? So we need to investigate whether this is the AP person's tucking in their personal account with AT&T. Let's look and see if there are other vendors that could happen. A lot of these look like business-to-business accounts, commercial wholesale accounts that a personal employee would not necessarily. We've already seen that cash one, so we'll flog that one for sure. Cox Cable. That's another one that an employee may have. And so the 2 different accounts, that could be the business account and then the personal account also being tucked in. So we will definitely include that in our report. I don't see anything else in here right away. Most of these look like invoice numbers. Now this looks like it could be a duplicate. See how they've got that? Paid once, paid twice. Paid once, paid twice. Paid once, paid twice. Why is that? That doesn't look correct. And so there could be a side agreement with that vendor where the second payment is potentially going to a different address, and so the employee is changing that. So this arrangement of looking at payment by vendor by month is a nice visual that immediately helps us to see these duplicates. And also look for the mirroring. So you can sort of see that there's this visual, right, of, okay, what do we got here? Janny and Janny 2. So we have one vendor and another vendor that looks a whole lot like the first vendor with similar patterns. So they have 2 different janitorial services that they pay for 4 locations or 5 locations every single month. That would be something to definitely ask about. That looks a little strange. Oh, look at this. We have yet another cleaning account. So are there 5 different places we clean by 3 different cleaning services? This seems overdone in the cleaning service department. So I would be suspicious and want to report on there's 3 different vendors that we pay 4 and 5 times a month for cleaning. And if you remember from your text, services are harder, fake services that you pay for are harder to figure out because it's hard to prove that they were done or weren't done. We'll definitely follow up on those 3 cleaning services. Alright, let's scroll down here to see if anything else. Everything else looks like yet another cleaning service. So let's make a note of all these cleaning services. We have Janny 2, Nora's Cleaning, and Oprah Cleaning, I guess. So Opera's Cleaning. Look, we got another cleaning service. So we have quite a few cleaning services that are getting paid several times a month. So definitely going to follow up on that. Whoop, we've got some payments to, wow, Miss Spies, the one who's making all the payments. So those 2 definitely need to be looked into. So Sprint, there's just 1 account as opposed to the other ones that we were looking at, where there was 2 different account numbers, and so there could have been a commercial and a personal, where the personal is being tucked in there. Okay. It's a pretty big payment to Walmart here, wouldn't you say? Wonder what they're buying at Walmart that's that big. Maybe we should look at the backup for that. I could believe the 200 and the 300, but that looks a little big. Okay, and that's the end. So we found some suspicious items. What we can do in order to look at the ones that we're interested in is only ask for the ones that we looked at that we thought were creepy. So let's make this a little bigger. Okay, so in the middle of making that bigger, I got rid of everything. So here we go. I want to look at AT&T, American Express. Make sure I click all the ones. I made notes as we were going through. Make sure I click all the ones we want to, the one it made out to cash, and Cox. Be sure to get all those cleaning services. Enroth was the one that had those huge duplicate payments. Alright, we've got the issue with that. When you make a fake extra vendor, often you make it look like a typical vendor. Maybe just Joy's Cleaning Service. That was another one that we had lots of invoices for cleaning, maybe more than what was legitimate. One of those is probably correct, but we just cannot tell from that which one. So we report all of them. Let them, here's a 5th one. Let them sort it out. The payments to Spies. We had those huge payments to Sam's. Which Sam's Club was it? I don't remember. I'll click both of them. Sprint looked okay. Or TSS Services. Tell me that's not Spies. Let's look at that. Oh, it was Walmart that we had the great big ones too, right? Okay. Alright, so let's have all the ones here that gave us grief or suspicion. Okay. And yeah, that great big one to Sam's here. Sam's Wholesale looked okay, so we can remove it. With one of the other Sam's. Notice how there's a mirror image, right? There's a Sam's that's legitimate and a Sam's that's not. And that's often the case. That's that mirroring, where you have one that's okay and one that's not okay. Okay, so what we're going to do with this is we're going to export it so that we have it to report to our client as part of our file. So we're going to do what we've been doing before, and that is that we're going to save it in our files. Let's save it as AP unusual data for follow-up. There we go. And then OK. So then when we go to our folder, and we open our file, we'll have these payments, and we can make a pivot table in Excel, which I'll show you when we're putting our report together, that will organize this in a way that the vendor can see exactly what it was we were trying to show them. So that's the end of some investigation in accounts payable, and we'll be pulling that all together and organizing it as part of your documentation for your project.